there is a viciousness going on with us against one another, and it's almost like a disease that we're not aware of, and it's spreading and it's spreading, and the intensity is getting higher and higher, simply because of this Donald Trump situation. And we are going after each other in like some really vicious ways because of decisions certain black people choose to make about what they want to do with their life. And so what's happening with us now, some of you have heard me talk about African American culture, and what's happening with us now is what I call a part of African American culture. Um, what's consistent with African American culture is that the church is at the root of African American culture. African American culture, according to Alfonso, this is not necessarily the truth, but African American culture, according to me, is African people operating with a consciousness created by white people during the European enslavement of African people for over 400 years. And the significance of this is because we're operating with a consciousness created by white people during the enslavement of African people, our consciousness is what directs us. Our consciousness is what directs us. And that's very significant because we have to recognize it is our consciousness and our thought process that encourages and influences our decisions. And if we understand that we're operating with the consciousness created by Europeans during the European enslavement of African people, then we also need to understand that this is this contributes in a major way to our behavior. Now, when I talk about African culture is rooted in universal understandings. African culture goes way beyond the pageantry of clothing, the pageantry of dance, the pageantry of the drums, the pageantry of mudcloth, and all the wonderful, beautiful, brilliantly colored patterns that come out of that country. African culture is rooted in universal understandings, and that's where we come from. Universal understandings cultivate knowledge and wisdom and personal growth. Universal understandings cultivate knowledge and wisdom and personal growth. African American culture does not cultivate knowledge, wisdom, and personal growth. African American culture cultivates competition and conflict and confrontation. And it's a difference. So we need to reconnect with our what I call our African culture and begin getting rid of this African American culture that we are being taught to embrace, especially with the new museum in Washington, D.C. A consciousness directed by universal understandings also produces divine universal humans becoming. Divine universal humans becoming. That's what we are. That's where we come from. As African Americans, we are not divine universal humans becoming. We have become vicious, copycats of those who enslaved us. It doesn't matter if we are black and a Trump supporter. or if we are black and a non-Trump supporter. However, if either of us makes the other of us the enemy because of our decision either way, we confirm, validate, legitimize, corroborate, authenticate, substantiate, approve, and ratify the fact that we are out of our natural minds and we are certified insane. This is not necessarily fact. This is just my personal opinion. When we make each other the enemy because of our decisions in regard to Donald Trump, we confirm that we are out of our natural minds and we are functioning from a non-productive consciousness. We're insane. It doesn't mean that we can't recover. This is just the reality of this particular situation. We can always recover. But just as in every kind of medical field and every situation where people are looking to be healed, we have to first acknowledge that something's wrong. And as long as we think we're okay, we're never going to acknowledge something's wrong. So we have to acknowledge that something's wrong. And I'm going to read a list of descriptions of our behavior of late. And this is just we have been behaving in an incredibly foul way. And can you do me a favor and please share this video, let others know that we're live here and we're doing this doggone thing. So I'm gonna read a list of things that I posted on my Facebook page today that describes our behavior of late. And again, this doesn't mean that we can't recover, but this is how we've been behaving. We have become evil trolls with the heart and mind of a slave master, and we think we're okay. For some, see, this is the key. We think it's okay to be an evil troll. And when I say an evil troll, that means that you go and what we do is we go and we post on anything that we can. We make videos, we do all manner of things that we can to trash other black people or other African people because of the decisions that they make. And see, I'll probably say this 100 times on this particular video, but if we understand that we're sick, then we probably wouldn't be trashing each other. But because we think we're okay, we're comfortable trashing and smashing each other. And some people might consider what I'm doing as trashing and smashing black people. But I'm really not trashing and smashing black people. I'm describing how we're behaving. I'm describing how we're behaving. And please, again, if you can share this video, I would definitely appreciate it. So we've become these evil trolls. So we go anywhere we can to just go after somebody because they're another African person, because they're not functioning the way we think they should. We literally, right now, we're white people with melanated skin. We're white people who used to be divine universal humans becoming. But right now, we're just white people acting like white people. It is our consciousness that directs us. And if our consciousness were created by white people, then our behavior is going to be consistent with our consciousness, and basically we're acting like white people have acted towards us historically. And now we're doing it towards each other. There's nothing worse than being sick and being in denial about being sick. There's nothing worse than being sick and being in denial about being sick, and that's where we are right now. The reason why we're so comfortable trashing each other and going after each other with such viciousness is because we think we're okay. You know, if there's a guy with one leg and a crutch walking with a limp, you don't attack the guy. You recognize he got one leg and a crutch. So you kind of understand why he's limping. He's got one leg. This is not an excuse, it's just a fact. Our behavior is consistent with having a consciousness that was created by Europeans. Naturally, we're acting just like them. The hate we have toward each other is the same hate the slave owners had towards us. The hate we have towards each other in our relationship with each other and how we go after each other is the same hatred those who enslaved us had towards us. People who enslave other people are wicked, vicious lowlifes. People who enslave other people are wicked, vicious lowlifes. And lately, we have demonstrated that we are wicked, vicious lowlifes who have the nerve to hate those who enslaved us. We have the nerve to be upset with those who enslaved us. Every day we're presenting more and more proof about how these people treat us and how these people have no respect for us. Every day we talk about what happened to us, and we have become them. We are them. And so in the full context of our behavior, we have operated as wicked, vicious lowlifes towards each other. I'm looking at the behavior. I don't think this is a false accusation. I think it's extremely accurate. And it's also consistent with the behavior that those who enslaved us had towards us. It's only natural. We're operating with a consciousness they created. We walk in a circle of self-destruction, and then we ask why we are victimized. In this circle of self-destruction, again, is us criticizing, just attacking each other. And see, it's one thing, when I talk about us attacking each other, I'm speaking in reference to we're having different perspectives on things, and then we go after each other for having different perspectives. That's what I'm referencing, how vicious our attacks are towards each other simply because we have different perspectives. There's something that we need to understand. That is that we are sick and we are in recovery and we're out of our natural minds. Because if we were truly aware that we are sick, then we would understand that we might all look alike. But when we sit in a room to have a meeting, it's going to be way different than if the Latinos sat in a room to have a meeting, or if Europeans sat in a room to have a meeting, or if some segment of the European population, the Irish sat in a room to have a meeting, the Polish sat in a room to have a meeting, or any of these other groups of Europeans, or if the Asians, the Chinese sat in a room, the Japanese sat in a room, the Filipinos sat in a room. It's a big difference when we sit in the room. If we understood that we are out of our natural minds, we would also understand that when we sit in a room, we might look alike, but that's where it stops. Because we're all coming with our colonial realities. Some of us are coming with a French colonial reality. We might have been born and raised in Haiti, or born and raised in Senegal. We're coming with our French colonial reality. Some of us born in Jamaica or some of the other islands colonized by the British are coming with our British colonial reality. And so some of us are coming with our American colonial reality. When we sit in the room, then we have to deal with the fact that we have different religions. So we have, some of us are coming as Christians, some of us are coming as Muslims, some of us are coming, as Hindus. We're everything. So it's different when we sit in a room and try to have a meeting, because we have to sort through all of that stuff before we can get to what we're meeting about. When the Latinos sit in the room, they all speaking the same language, they eating the same food for the most part, they have the same religious beliefs, they have listen to the same music, whole different story. Same with the Irish, same with the Jews, same with the Polish, same with the French, same with all of them. When they sit in the room, the Asians, whether they Japanese or Chinese or Filipino or whatever, when they sit in the room to have a meeting, they all start with a common foundation, is what we call culture. The reason why being an African American, there's no real such thing as African American culture, is because we can all be African Americans sitting in the room and still be coming from 15 different cultures. From a religious standpoint, from the kind of food we eat standpoint, from a language standpoint, from a historical standpoint. That's not, culture usually represents people moving from a common place of language and religion and food and music and all of that kind of stuff. African American culture is not that. It's just non-existence. It's not real. But we are African Americans. What I'm talking about right now is African American behavior. So overcoming the sickness requires that we first acknowledge we're sick. And many of us don't want to do that. Yes, Black fear matters. We are in fear. Most of the time we're in fear about stuff. It has everything to do with the fact that we don't have a plan, number one, and we don't understand what's going on, number two. We're venomous savages towards each other while we show them smiles. Now, we have a problem with how they treat us and how they've treated us. But we'll be venomous savages towards each other simply because we have different perspectives. And then we'll give them smiles. And we'll accept the fact that Hillary comes to the radio interview with hot sauce in her pocketbook. We'll accept that, you know. We be smiling. And I got some hot sauce in my pocketbook now. She may as well have came with watermelon and fried chicken, but we okay with that. We support Hillary. We okay with that. But we're vicious and venomous towards each other for those of us that didn't support Hillary, for those of us that refused to vote for Hillary. We got accused of being Trump supporters if we don't vote for Hillary, and the serious people. Have a complete fallout. We have had lifetime fallouts with each other because of those of us who didn't support Hillary, and the majority of Black folks wanted us to support Hillary. I would have never supported that vicious troglodyte. No more than I supported the other vicious troglodyte, who were the final two contenders. No way in the world. Gotta have some self-respect. There's no way that I would lower myself to cast a vote for people who have no respect for me. It's just absolutely not possible. But for those who did vote for either of those troglodytes, I don't have a challenge with that, because right now that's where we are. We're not in our right minds, according to me. That's not necessarily a fact. I have to always say that. We are out of our natural minds, and we're behaving as such. My problem, I don't have a problem with them. I don't have a problem with Trump and Hillary or the Congress or none of those venomous people who gave y'all's President Obama zero respect for 8 years while he was in office. I remember one of the things they had was a picture of all 44 presidents, and when they got to the square with Obama's picture, it was just a black square, and they were handing this stuff out. These people didn't have any respect for Obama. And we still continue to support this political system. We let them come into our churches and come into our communities and ask for our support. We let these people who totally disrespected this man that you all did the electric boogie slide for in Atlanta when he was first elected. You re-elected him. These people had no respect for him, were open and honest with it every single day, and then we allowed them to come into our space and solicit our participation in a system that disrespected this man for 8 years. And guess what? Now we're fighting each other and angry with each other and making each other lifetime enemies about this political system that showed us for 8 years it has no respect for us. It had no respect for President Obama, and we're still running around fighting each other about this political system. This is sickness. We are crazy. We are out of our natural minds, and we need to one day acknowledge it so we can begin the recovery process. This is real. Again, this is just Alfonso's perspective. This ain't necessarily the truth. How in the world can you have self-respect and continue to support a political system that showed you on a daily basis for 8 years that they have zero respect for us or the president who looked like us? We have to be not in our right minds to do such a thing. And so we have to acknowledge this so that we can begin the recovery process. We need to show each other more compassion and empathy. Some people would say tonight, I'm not showing compassion and empathy. Well, yeah, I am. I am. The compassion and empathy that we need to show each other is a compassion and empathy that's consistent with us understanding that we are out of our natural minds. Therefore, we will do everything we can to understand why we make certain moves that we make. We need to understand each other to the extent that we have to begin to come to the place and say, well, we're out of our natural minds, and we're not going to all grow and evolve and begin to understand things at the same rate and at the same place and time and space. We can only do it in our own time when we're ready. So as those of us who are making different moves and doing different things and supporting different things, we have to have enough compassion and empathy to understand, okay, well, that's where they are at this point. That's where they are at this point. So, oh, my bad. My phone got a little excited, because I got a little excited. So we have to show each other a little bit more compassion. I can use some work in the compassion and empathy department. We all can, because yes, we are out of our natural minds, and we all fall short in the compassion and empathy department sometimes. And so I'm guilty of it as well. You know, I'm guilty of it as well. I can't say that I am always compassionate and empathetic with us. But I do recognize that I'm out of my natural mind, and I'm constantly trying to recover it. And I'm using universal thoughts and understandings to try to make that happen. I studied a lot of our history, and I realized that the foundation we moved from was universal, and that's why I reach for that. So yes, we're having lifetime fallouts. We're having lifetime fallouts. Brother William, I just do it when I feel it right now. If I feel like doing a show tomorrow morning, I'll wake up, and because we got this Facebook Live and I have the freedom to do it, I might do one tomorrow morning. Right now, I'm whenever it comes to me, that's what I'm gonna do. So like them, we don't like them to use intimidation against us. But that's what we reach for when others of us do something different than what we want us to do. So we try to use intimidation. And, you know, we got, what's his name? Lee Daniels. He's a power broker in Hollywood because he has some popular shows on the TV. And so Lee Daniels, he acts like them now. And he has a certain power position. And so if certain people make Lee Daniels upset, then he'll, you know, use a certain amount of intimidation and stuff to force people to function in a certain way. And so we have resorted to those tactics as well. We try to use intimidation to force others of us to function the way we want them to function. We are operating with a mind created by Europeans, so we are behaving the same way Europeans behave. We have a history of behaving differently. Europeans don't. This is how Europeans have always behaved. For those of you who are sharing this video, I appreciate it. It's a good thing, you know, and letting others know that we're doing this live thing. So, yeah, right. We've been using intimidation tactics and be bullying each other. But my point is, we're acting like white folks. That's what my point is. And the reason why we're acting like white folks is because we're operating with a consciousness created by white folks. And until we recognize that we're out of our natural minds and begin the recovery process, we're going to continue functioning in this destructive way. We have the ability to not behave this way, and we have the ability to be better. I can't say that for those who enslaved us. Their history has been consistent and long and the same, but we have the ability to be better. Basically, we are them. We are them. Our consciousness is what makes us them in our thought process and in our behavior. And so, as it relates to the selection process and all of the things associated, we have become them. And we've been them ever since they got through with us and told us we was free. They didn't, you know, like I said last night, if little Johnny wraps his car around a tree, they have a whole meeting. They have sociologists and psychologists and doctors and all kind of lawyers and everybody at the school to help the students overcome the loss of little Johnny. But we didn't get any counseling or anything after they finished with us, after 200 and 300 years of psychological torment and torture. And so they just left us with it. And we're walking around with it to this day. So, William. My man William, you all right with me, but I'm gonna continue on. So we're acting towards each other the same way those who enslaved us acted towards us. We are afraid, and we're acting like afraid people. The interesting thing is, why are we afraid of Donald Trump? Is the question I have. Why are we afraid of Donald Trump? Why are black folks afraid of Donald Trump? Why are we having such a heavy-duty reaction? What is the difference between Donald Trump and the last 43 European presidents? What's the difference between Donald Trump and them? Oh, he speaks just outwardly about how he feels. He's just bold with it. So you rather they just keep it a secret and stab you in your back when you're not looking? Is that what it is? Does that make sense? What is this? I said something earlier today. You just watched the black president for 8 years try to get all of these things done. And the white Congress and House of Representatives and all of the people in politics just said, no, no, Negro, no, you can't do this, no, no, no. For 8 years. So much stuff he tried to get done, it was just a no. But for some reason, the same people who watched Obama get no'd for 8 years believes that Trump could just say something and it's just gonna happen. Without Congress, without the House, without nothing. Soon as Trump says he's gonna do it, it could just happen. We have to be out of our natural minds in order to watch the Negro president for 8 years get rejected on so much that he wanted to do by Congress and the House of Representatives. But at the same time, we're under the belief that Trump could just say something and just do it. And then that's all to it. Now, if we're keeping it real, and we actually believe that Congress on both sides feels the same way Trump feels, the House of Representatives feels the same way Trump feels, then that's different. But to be running around here being afraid about Trump, being afraid that he's going to just make statements and then they're just going to happen just because Trump said so, that just doesn't even make sense. Again, confirmation that we are out of our natural minds and afraid for no good reason at all. So now, the Negroes are going after Chrisette Michele because she's going to go to the inauguration and attacking her viciously. Attacking her with all kind of venom and viciousness. Black folks going after this woman. Steve Harvey catching a bad one. Catching a bad one. They going after Steve Harvey viciously. Samantha said, well, the difference between Trump and Obama is that Obama didn't have the Democratic majority. No. Obama didn't have the support of white people on either side. Okay, so now that's clear. Let's move on. So black folks are going after Chrisette Michele viciously. We going after Steve Harvey with venom and viciousness. Oh, we trying to just kill him. We using our social media to just destroy Steve Harvey. Yeah, Kanye West met Trump. We going after him too. And we organize. Listen, the best organizing we do is when we want to attack other African. Is when we want to attack other African people. I am so tired of this phone falling. But that's some of the best organizing we do. When we want to attack other African people, we get organized in such a beautiful way. When we want to be vicious against our own people. So we go after Jim Brown. You know, we go after Pharrell Williams. We go after Jay-Z, Beyonce, and LeBron James. Yeah, this is where the compassion and empathy comes into place. And I have to say I'm guilty of not having it as well. This is where we have to be patient with each other. When we watch Pharrell Williams and LeBron James and Beyonce and Jay-Z get paraded across the stage like it's a slave auction block during that Hillary Clinton thing, we have to just understand that we are out of our natural minds and we are at different stages of growth. We are at different stages of growth. This is a phone stand, but it's kind of brand new, so it's really, really tight, and for some reason it's just squeezing the phone out. Malcolm, it is a straight up legit phone stand. So and so we go after Steve Harvey and Kanye West for meeting with Trump and Jim Brown. And then, you know, certain people go after the idea of athletes and entertainers and comedians, you know, being presented as leaders. And we shouldn't care what Europeans think. We shouldn't care what white folks think. I don't care who they think is my leader. That doesn't matter to me. We shouldn't care. We should just focus on what we think is important, because they're always going to do what they do. And the only reason why we're stuck in the fishbowl, Malcolm, is because we haven't acknowledged that we're out of our natural minds. So we think we're okay. And we're swimming in a circle of madness. And the more we attack each other, the more we stay in the cesspool. We can't get out as long as we keep thinking something's wrong with that one, not me. See, as long as we keep thinking that, then we'll never get out of the cesspool. So we have to really be clear about the fact. This is why I'm so consistent when I'm talking about us recognizing that we're out of our natural minds. You know, and like I think brother was saying that this Chrisette Michele, the little bit of juice card black people have, now we're using it against each other for participating in the whole Trump thing. I guess he was saying she got fired from some kind of movie or something. But I'm saying that that's the circle of madness. That's the circle of madness. Again, if you could share this video, I definitely appreciate it. But that's what we're doing. We're swimming in a circle of madness. And as long as we continue going after each other with this viciousness and bringing each other down for making decisions that one might not like that the other made, we confirm that we're out of our natural minds, and we confirm that we're not acknowledging we are out of our natural minds. And we also confirm that we have no compassion and empathy for the fact that we're out of our natural minds. We have to have patience with each other and allow each other to grow in our own space and time as we're ready. But that can only take place if we know we're out of our natural minds. If we don't understand that we're out of our natural minds, then we don't have patience with each other, and we just start going after each other the way they're going after that sister Chrisette Michele. And see, this is not just a Donald Trump thing. The way black folks went after Gabby Douglas, that Olympian sister, the gymnast, because her hair was curly on the sides. And she didn't have the straight hair and a good perm. And we went after that sister so bad, till you can almost see it on her face, how she felt. So then she had to go do a whole photo shoot and put on some kind of big Gone with the Wind gown and get a real good perm, so when they did the pictures and close up on the edges, she had a good perm and a good weave, and show how she can really get her hair done when she need to. Nobody wanted to see, without compassion, we can't acknowledge and understand that she was functioning in the system. It's just like young black girls all over this country who want to participate in cheerleading and gymnastics. And these white folks don't take into consideration that you have a different kind of hair. They make it a rule and say everybody has to come with a bun ponytail on top. They make it a rule everybody has to have their hair slicked back in the ponytail to the back, and it has to hang down 8 inches. These are rules these people make, taking only into consideration the texture and hair of white people. So when our people participate in these sports and we excel, and then the only thing that we can do, black folks, is attack her because her hair is nappy on the edges, and this woman is destroying the whole world in her sport. And these young girls right now today that are in these gymnastic clubs and these cheerleading clubs, these young black girls today, they don't take into consideration their hair is different. And their mothers, many times, don't go to bat for their child and say, my child can't wear her hair like that. They come to the salon and say, well, they have to have their hair slicked up in a ponytail. What can you do? We are out of our natural mind. We have to acknowledge that. We have to recognize that we are crazy as hell. That's according to Alfonso. That ain't necessarily the facts. But I'm saying, we've done two things and continue to do these two things that continue to contribute to our own destruction. As much as we claim we fighting for rights and we fighting for freedom and we fighting for this and fighting for that, it's just while we're doing all of this fighting, we're effing over each other and effing up each other. And I don't care how much you want to be on the front line and claim you fighting for our people and fighting for a cause and all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter if we're still going after each other with this incredible viciousness, acting like, well, I got this thing all figured out. I got this thing figured out and you Negroes don't. No, man, we all in this thing. We all scuffling to try to make this thing. I don't care how foul we're treating each other or what we're doing to each other. We can consciously make a decision to not go after each other simply on the strength that we know that we're in recovery and we're not operating with our right consciousness. We can make a conscious decision to not go after each other with this viciousness we've been going after each other on. We're out here calling each other coons and Sambos and sellouts and all of this other vicious stuff because somebody who looks like us makes a decision that we don't like and we don't agree with. Calling each other names. Listen. Us calling each other coons, no different than us calling each other jigaboos, porch monkeys, spooks and moolies and sambos and tar babies and all of these other names is no different. It's no different. We have to understand, as difficult as it sounds, that we are out of our natural minds and we're operating with a consciousness created by white people during the European enslavement of African people. And understand something, white people. You know, you'll probably never understand me saying that we're operating with a consciousness white people created. What you'll do in defense, what you'll do to try to reject that statement is say that I'm just making excuses for our foul behavior. And I understand you. So for those of you who feel that way, I understand why you say it. And it makes no never mind to me because I know better. We are operating with a consciousness created by white people. And this is like why we're acting just like white people have acted towards us. We're functioning in that way towards each other. For those of you, I do appreciate you sharing the video. It's cool. I thank you for sharing the video. But we have to, let me tell you, the only way we can get out of the fish tank, the only way we can get out of the fish tank is to have more compassion for each other. We have to decide that we will no longer, we can just start somewhere. And the start that I'm saying is for us to stop criticizing each other. Just simply on the strength that we know that our minds is not right. There are many of us who, and I'm telling you, sometimes we want to go after people because we're raised in a society that promotes conflict and confrontation and going after people and criticizing people. You know, whether it's the reality shows or any of these other things, this is a society that promotes conflict and confrontation. And what it promotes more than anything else is the criticizing and attacking of each other. And then we wonder why young people are doing the things they're doing and committing suicide. It's amazing. You can be watching Love and Hip Hop and they fighting and attacking each other. And then the next thing you know, you'll see a commercial about teen suicide. And we don't understand. And send us your dollars to help us try to alleviate teen suicide. Send us your dollars to this. The country is promoting the behavior. And then calls itself, it's called order out of chaos. The country creates chaos for the purpose of generating income with a desire to claim to produce order. So we'll be watching Love and Hip Hop and women, really attractive women, and just pulling each other's hair out and throwing drinks at each other and fighting. And then the next commercial is, help curb teen suicide. Send us your money. Teens are committing suicide because they're in school being attacked in a most vicious way, verbally and physically, and badgered and doing what we're doing to each other. And they go into deep depression. And then the people that are badgering and attacking, we don't have a stop button. We want to see you destroyed. We want to see you on your knees. We want to see you curled up in a corner, removed from the world. We don't stop. This is white people behavior. We have the potential to behave better than that. We have the potential to do better than that. So I don't care what they're doing. I don't care what other people are doing. I don't care what white folks are doing. I don't care what Trump is doing. What I care about is that we make the change that we have the potential to make. We make the change that we have the potential to make. We live in an order out of chaos society. They create all hell so that they can make money off of trying to solve the problem they just created. And we have the potential to make the change. If we, right now, for me tonight, I'm going to do everything I can to not go after other black folks who make decisions that I don't necessarily agree with. Because I want to show some compassion and empathy and understanding for the fact that we are not in our right minds. I want to act like I know that we're not in our right minds. There's a saying that hurt people hurt people. Well, we are a hurt people. I can't think of another group of people on the planet that's more hurt than African people in America and what we are trying to recover from. I can't think of another group of people, and this is not about comparing tragedies, but I can't think of another group of people who are more hurt and damaged than African people in America. And so I understand. I understand why we're hurting each other to some degree. Because it is said that hurt people hurt people. But I also understand that we have the potential and the power to stop. It takes some discipline, especially in a society where it promotes hurt. We live in a society that promotes hurt. The society promotes conflict. The society promotes confrontation. And that's real, but we don't have to participate in it. We can grab some control of ourselves and not participate in it. We're really hurting each other, man. And if Steve Harvey wants to meet with Trump, by all means, that's where Steve Harvey is in his life, man. Let him meet with Trump without us smashing and bashing him, without us going after him. If Chrisette Michele wants to go to the inauguration and perform, by all means, man, let her do her thing, because we're all trying to get ourselves together in this. And none of us are really in a position to criticize any other of us, because we all sick. And we all need some work. You know, if Beyonce and Jay-Z and LeBron James and Pharrell Williams want to walk across the stage and support Hillary Clinton, by all means, man, that's where they are in their understanding of life. We have to give each other room to grow. That's the point I'm making. And the way we give each other room to grow is to just understand that's what we're trying to do, is grow, and not get involved in such colonial behavior as trying to destroy each other simply because we're at a different place in our growth. That's the point that I'm making. That's the point that I'm making. William, my brother, another civil war coming. Understand something, William. These white people have worked way too hard to set this country up in a way that keeps them comfortable, for them to let something crazy happen. And what everybody needs to understand is, it doesn't matter what goes down. We are equipped to deal with it. But living in fear and us attacking each other, our people have no idea what it's like to be a slave. Well, I'm gonna deal with that from a technical place first. First of all, we were never slaves. Our ancestors were never slaves. Our great, whatever, they were never slaves. For us, there was never any such thing as a slave. We were enslaved. acknowledging that we were enslaved also acknowledges that there was somebody responsible for the conditions that we were living under. We're not born slaves. We African people are born divine universal humans becoming. And then we were enslaved. Our ancestors were born divine universal humans becoming, and then they were enslaved. Our great, 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 great grandparents were born divine universal humans becoming, and then they were enslaved. We were enslaved. There's no such thing as being born a slave. Anybody who was enslaved, there's human beings in different parts of the world who were enslaved. You can say we were prisoners of war. You can say we were held hostage. But usually, when you're prisoners of war, you're taken prisoner during fighting. That didn't necessarily take place with us. We were born and enslaved. And it was simple as that. And so, this vicious behavior that we have been leveling towards one another, we have to do better. We have to do better. Let's try to understand, that from this day forward, let's try to do all we can to not go after each other with such viciousness simply because we make decisions that others might not agree with, or others make decisions that we might not agree with. I think if nothing else, we can do that. And then we can move from there. So, I appreciate you for tuning in. I just wanted to this is more like tonight was more spontaneous because I didn't even recognize until somebody pointed it out to me a little while ago that tomorrow was the inauguration. And for all of those of us who were laying in the cut to videotape the inauguration so we can slow it down and find the Negroes who were there and begin attacking them for being there and using a little bit of juice card we might have to go after them and make their lives miserable and make their children and wives' lives miserable for being there. Yeah, let's just calm down. Let's just chill out. For those of us who are getting our pens and papers ready to write down a list of all of the Negroes we saw in the audience and who we're going to go after and what do they own and what companies do they own and how can we boycott them and make them suffer for supporting Trump. Let's just back up and let people operate in the space they're in based on where they are. Man, if they're not trying to hurt us or hurt our families, we need to just give each other space to learn and grow. We need to give each other space to learn and grow. That's just what I'm saying. You can take it or you can throw it out, but that's just my perspective. The other thing I want to say is I know there's a lot of people, including really famous leaders, who teach us that we have enemies. And as we move into this universal approach to life, we need to understand it's not about having enemies. We don't have any enemies. This is according to me. Might not be the truth, but it's according to me. We don't have any enemies. We only declare people enemies when we refuse to acknowledge the reality of who and what they are, and then deal with them based on what we understand. If we acknowledge who and what they are from a standpoint of how they behave and how it could potentially be a detriment to our own lives, we have to acknowledge that. We don't have to declare anybody the enemy. We have to declare them as understood and then act like we know. We don't have to have enemies. We don't declare the lion or the tiger, the bear, the enemy. Because if we go in the forest, it'll take us out. If I go into the forest, we don't declare the snakes the enemy. The snakes can kill us. We don't declare certain berries the enemy because they can kill us. We just understand the reality of the berries and the lions and the tigers and the snakes and the bears and We understand how to behave. We act like we know who we're dealing with or what we're dealing with when we're in his presence. We don't declare the poison ivy the enemy. So why would we allow somebody to teach us to declare people enemies? What good is declaring people enemies do for us? Because I'm going to tell you, right now we live in a society where it's necessary to know how to build relationships. If you don't have relationship building skills and you running around here functioning based on the race paradigm and fighting and mad and arguing all the time, we're going to limit our own progress. We need to listen. We don't call our cousin who was on crack and stole the car and stole everything out of the damn car the enemy. We understand they were on crack. We might be upset with them, but we don't declare them the enemy of the family. What I'm saying is, we don't have to declare anybody the enemy, therefore maybe blocking the road to our own progress. Everything in this society can be used for us to serve our own best interests. And it's not a selfish thing as much as it's an understanding from a universal place. That's how everything works. There's not a person on this planet that's not moving from a place of, how can I use this to get what I want? Everybody's, that's just how, that's a universal approach to life. Some of us are involved in it consciously and some of us are involved in it unconsciously, but at the end of the day, we are all involved in that. And so in a society like the one we're living in today, we have to be able to build relationships. We have to be able to interact with all walks of life. We have to be able to move in a room full of vultures and get what we want out of the room. Man, that's what we're in now. And understand something, that's what we're always in. All the time. It doesn't matter like, I don't declare white people special, right? I don't declare the KKK. They're not a special group. White people are not a special group. They are a group of people who have a history that has been clearly historically documented. And it is our responsibility to act like we know who we're dealing with. And it is their responsibility, if they have an interest in creating a different history, it's their responsibility to change. But I can't depend on them to change when I haven't seen any change in my own lifetime, let alone from the history that has been taking place from way back when as it relates to our relationship with them. So I'm not angry with white people. I don't have a problem with white people. I don't have a problem with the KKK. I don't have a problem with any of that stuff, because at the end of the day, like I said earlier today, I don't have a problem with the Illuminati. I don't have the problem with the New World Order. I don't have none of that stuff, because that's all white people. At the end of the day, what we're talking about is the behavior of white folks. And they have documented their behavior. The last 8 years, they showed you how clear they are about how they feel about black people, how they feel about your president. They've demonstrated that. We don't have to be mad. We don't have to be declaring people enemies like some of the leaders and talking about them all the time. Because at the end of the day, it's not about them. It's about us and what we do and how we respond and how we deal with things. That's what it's about. So, no, man, I'm not getting involved in all of this enemy stuff. And the whole thing as it relates to the government is the key. There are what I call the white majority, and then there's the and then there's what I call the wonderful white minority. The white majority represents the people in this country who keep race issues alive, who keep the race paradigm alive. The race paradigm, again, I'll say it 100 million times, is the single most poisonous and destructive paradigm that we can operate in. if we live based on race, then we are owned, period. If we live based on race, then we are owned. Brother William, you can be mad all you want. It's not going to change their behavior, and all it's going to do is hinder your progress. So being mad ain't never worked. Just think about all of the years we were running around protesting and see where that got us. We're protesting 55 years later for the same exact things that we were protesting and boycotting for 55 years ago. So somewhere along the line, we got to recognize just having these emotional outbursts and reactions, they don't work either. They haven't. They haven't. So no, I don't have, white people get no special treatment from me. They get no special treatment. I just have to understand who I'm dealing with and then act like I know and then keep it moving. And this way I don't block myself, because I'm not sure who the wonderful white minority are versus who the foul majority is. So, if I'm doing some relationship building and I'm interacting and I'm trying to get to a certain place, and I'm running around declaring all white people the enemy, now I might interact with somebody who's in the position to make moves so that I can move forward in this reality. They're the ones that control it. So it's only natural that it's gonna require me working with them to some degree to get the things that I want out of this. But no, man, I'm not running around here. The other reason why I don't declare people enemies, because I know that life is so much bigger than the race paradigm and white people and enemies and anger and fighting and protesting and boycotting and praying and crying. Life is huge. Like I said last night, the sun doesn't function based on how white people feel. It just doesn't. Birds don't fly based on how white people feel. Fish don't swim based on how white people feel. There's absolutely nothing in this natural reality that functions based on how white people feel, except Negroes. Something's wrong with that picture. Why would we allow our entire life to evolve around white people and what they're doing and not doing and how they feel, when everything else in the universe and nature is functioning based on how it needs to function? This is not about white people, because they're doing their thing. We're not doing our thing. Because just like I said in the beginning, because we're out of our natural minds. That's why we're the only living entity on the planet who are not doing our thing. Everything else and everybody else is doing their thing. People, Europeans who come to this country, come here and they do their thing. We're not doing our thing because we're out of our natural. Ants are doing their thing. Butterflies are doing their thing. The trees are doing their thing. Apples are growing and doing, everybody's doing their thing. But us. Because why? Because we're caught up in this race paradigm. Now, somebody said, I'm still not going to befriend them. They hate us, straight up. Now, check this. Let's take that. You're not going to befriend white people because they hate you, straight up. You're not going to befriend white people because they hate you, straight up. Okay. What does that have to do with life? Why, what life and living is so much bigger. And as long as long as we stay locked into this race, let me just make this proclamation right here, right now, today. See, Donald Trump, right now, his existence is being used to keep us stuck in race. This is why they keep making these movies about the 3 black women who wanted to prove to the white people that they were smart and they can help in NASA. And then, you know, every now and then they make a new Jackie Robinson movie and he had to prove himself to the white people. And then they make The Butler, and the butler had to show he could be a good butler. And then The Help. And then we keep over and over again, we keep being bombarded with this race-based stuff to keep us in a place of control. We cannot be who we have the potential to be locked into that race paradigm. Now, we are a universal people. We are a universal people. And if you stay locked into the race paradigm, there's no way. I don't care how much you fight and protest and march. I don't care how mad you get. I don't care how many enemies you declare. If you stay stuck in the race paradigm, you will not grow. You will not get anywhere. We will never know who we are. We will never know who we are. And as long as we keep running around here calling each other coons and Uncle Toms and Sambos and sellouts and attacking each other as though we ourselves ain't sick, we will not get anywhere. I don't care how many leaders you have. I don't care how many languages they speak. I don't care how many fancy their suits are. I don't care how many followers they have. Black people, African people on the whole, will not get anywhere being stuck in white people's race paradigm. It's not going to happen. The race paradigm is but a speck of dust from a grain of sand in comparison to life and how big life is. And when we withdraw from the universe and plant ourselves on this speck of dust from this grain of sand called the race paradigm and keep ourselves caught up in enemies and all the white people this and the white people that, let me just say this. The only significance that white people need to have in our lives is that they had control over us for 400 plus years. And so now we're operating with a consciousness that they created. And so as a result of operating with a consciousness that they created, we are now functioning the same way they function. And we're doing that to each other, which is what I call a self-destructive circle of madness, a self-destructive circle of madness. We're swimming in a circle of madness because we're operating with their consciousness, functioning the way they do. We love them. We have to love them to not be interested in getting out of their consciousness. And it's not to know that we're operating with their consciousness and have no interest in getting out of their consciousness is a declaration of love. We love them and we want to continue being them. And we want to continue having them as our standard. And so that's why I said earlier, and I'll say it for the rest of my life, I have zero respect for the first black anything. Again, that's a race-based thing. And for us to celebrate being the first black is also to confirm and validate that white people are our standard for what is best for us. We have a standard, and that standard is rooted in universal understanding. That standard is rooted in universal understanding. And we have a choice. We can continue operating in this circle of madness, or we can choose to start digging ourselves out of it.